This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, I'm Brooke Dennison, Executive Director of the YWCA in Canton, Illinois, and we are here for YWCA's 40th Annual Salute to Women of Achievement. I first want to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Without them, an event such as this would not be possible. So thank you so much to Bank of Farmington, CEFCU, Cook Medical, Crawford's Home Furnishings, Edward Jones Rusty Millhouse, Kiefer Financial, Key Sweater Insurance, Monocle's Pizza of Canton, and Rhodes Real Estate. So thank you so much. This is such an exciting event. Though we cannot be in person, I'm so thankful and appreciative to be joined by Angela Cousins, YWCA Board of Directors, also an RN and case manager at Unity Point Health, and Reverend Sue Harrington, our 2021 YWCA Woman of Achievement Empowerment Award, also the minister at Canton's First Congregational United Church of Christ, and a social justice warrior, really. We're going to hear all about all the things, but you make our world better, and we're so thankful that you're in it. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Angela.
Thank you. The YWCA Salute to Women in Achievement Empowerment Award centers around a body or lifetime of work by a woman who embraces the idea that giving in a multitude of ways, including encouragement and kindness, will allow others to flourish as individuals and as contributors to our community. I can think of no one who embodies the spirit of this award more than Reverend Sue Harrington. Not only has she been, as her nominator put it, breaking barriers and female stereotypes all her life, but she has also dedicated her life to serving others. Reverend Becky David, a more than 20-year friend of Reverend Sue, had this to say. One of the things that strikes me about Sue is her willingness to put herself on the line for all people, always setting an example of courage and what it means to do the right thing. She has a strong eye for injustice and a strong voice to do something about it. Justice runs in her blood. Sue Harrington, the youngest of three, was born into a military family in a small Mississippi town where schools were no longer segregated, but the community very much was. Sue remembers fondly the time she spent with her maternal grandparents on their small cotton farm. Sue recalls, "Yes, I have used an outhouse many times, or an empty molasses bucket because my grandfather was afraid I would fall in the hole." Her time spent with family in the segregated South undoubtedly played a part in her developing a passion for social and racial justice work later in life. During her school years, Sue was a gifted athlete, accumulating awards for basketball. Sue received a basketball scholarship to play for Northwest Junior College, where her team won the NJCAA Girls Basketball National Championship in 1983. Sue went on to play basketball and softball for Delta State University, where she graduated in 1986 with a Bachelor's of Science degree in physical education. After college, perhaps inspired by her father and grandfather's military service, Sue joined the United States Army Reserves and then the U.S. Army as a Patriot missile crew member in 1989. Sue explains, "It was about a 90 to 95% male-dominated occupation and as close to combat female soldiers could get." She was later deployed to Saudi Arabia, serving with her unit in Desert Storm. Sue graduated with honor from Army Recruiting School, the only female in her class. She was selected to serve a 3-year tour of duty as an Army recruiter, a position reserved for only the top 2% of soldiers. While stationed in Germany for a year, she was promoted to platoon sergeant. Sue's military career is replete with accolades and awards. Sue achieved the rank of Sergeant First Class within her first 10 years of service in a 90% male-dominated unit and won Battalion NCO of the Quarter in 1993. Sue received an Army Commendation Medal for performing life-saving CPR on a lieutenant who had collapsed and was unresponsive during a field training exercise. and Sue was one of only 2 top honor graduates at Army Advanced Non-Commissioned Officer Training School, once again, the only female graduate in her class. Her work as a recruiter earned her Top Recruiter of the Year 1998 for Lubbock's Texas Station and Top Recruiter honors for Dallas, Texas Recruiting Battalion. Sue finished her 14-year military career in Iowa City in 2002. Sue spent the next couple years serving her community as an alcohol and drug health body educator in elementary schools in Davenport, Iowa. Then in 2004, Sue entered Chicago Theological Seminary. I asked Sue, why seminary and not something else? And Sue replied simply, God called and I answered. While at seminary, Sue worked for John Lewis Community Services as a homeless street outreach team member, a position Sue described as the most significant work I had done up until that point in my life. Sue explained she was able to connect with the homeless population by handing out clothing, food, and setting up support services for the most in need. She went on to become the homeless veteran coordinator for the homeless shelter in Davenport. Sue states, my work with the homeless population has been the greatest influence in my ministry. She goes on to say, to be allowed to sit with people in their most vulnerable moments in life was truly an honor and a privilege that I have never forgotten. Because of this work, I am compassionate about and advocate for the rights and dignity of the most vulnerable, powerless, and voiceless in our community. Reverend Catherine Mulhern, who worked directly with Sue during her time in Iowa, had this to say about her work with the homeless. When I think of empowerment, I think of the work she did with the homeless and especially homeless veterans. She reminds people that they are more than what they do, more than their promotion they got or how much money they make, that we are all holy children of God. Sue graduated with a Master's of Divinity in 2007 and soon started work as a youth minister. Sue led 2 middle and high school aged groups on missions. Her first mission was to Emma's Homes of the Disabled in Missouri, where the group spent an intensely hot week building bathroom stalls and providing much needed lawn yard work for the home. Sue's second mission took her back to work with the homeless population she so dearly loved. In Washington, D.C., she led her youth group to pack food boxes at a food bank warehouse, clean facilities at a large women's shelter, and serve food at the local soup kitchen. Sue states, both of these missions trips had an enormous influence on my ministry and my work for social justice. Reverend Mulhern also had this to say about Sue. I think about the ways that her deep spirit drew out the spirits in the kids she worked with. The kids followed her in a really beautiful way. The way that she invites empowerment is beyond human empowerment. Today, Reverend Sue Harrington serves as pastor of Canton First Congregational United Church of Christ, a position she has held since 2012. She continues to move the church forward as an open and affirming church with an emphasis on social justice and progressive Christianity. In her role as pastor of First UCC, Sue has been an instrumental part of social justice programs and activities. A few highlights include her work on the series Black and White Together, God with Us, a discussion on white privilege, organizing volunteers to protest family separation at the border for the Lights for Liberty campaign, and providing her voice at a UCC panel discussion on racial justice and the prison system, a topic that has affected Sue's family firsthand. Professor Timothy Collins, PhD, author, and a member of Pastor Sue's congregation had this to say. This week marks the 3rd anniversary of our church's Sacred Conversations, Black and White Together. Pastor Sue and Professor Collins worked together, obtaining a grant from the wider UCC church, which allowed Pastor Sue and Professor Collins to put together a 5-part series on white privilege. Professor Collins explains, it helped our congregation grow and understand that our traditions of white privilege damage our relationship with God and with others, even in this predominantly white community and region. Most recently, though, COVID has slowed progress, Sue is working together with others to organize Fulton County's first large-scale Pride event and a safe space youth drop-in for LGBTQIA youth to gather safely. Pastor Sue is First Congregational's United Church of Christ and likely Canton's first openly gay female pastor, blazing a trail and being a role model for others like herself, as her nominator put it. Pastor Sue fully understands that visibility matters, and she is not afraid to put herself out there. In her capacity as pastor, she has been a visible participant in Pride events, Black Lives Matter events, Peoria P-Flag events, and various social justice protests. Carrie Blodgett, Canton UCC Church Council President, recalls fondly, "Before I'd even officially met Sue, I stood next to her at an LGBTQIA rally at Western Illinois University. It was my first experience with the woman who soon became my pastor, friend, and mentor. Through her words and actions, she demonstrates what it means to be a leader in our community." Again, in Pastor Sue's own words, "Because I have experienced the harmful and false religious narrative that LGBTQ+ people are not of God's good creation and therefore excluded from God's love and kingdom, I believe it is my call to be a voice and a visible presence of God's unconditional love." Samuel Grayson, local activist and president of the Social Justice Coalition, had this to say, "Sue has been a true blessing, and this is not a word I use lightly. As a transgender and genderqueer person, I have rarely felt safe or welcome in churches, but Sue changed that for me. With her love for all people, intersectional faith, and progressive approach to scripture, she has made me feel welcomed, respected, and loved by the congregation and church." Samuel adds, "Reverend Sue has been a beacon of hope and insight for me when I've struggled the most. She is a true blessing to Canton and the surrounding areas. I am proud to call her my role model, mentor, and friend." Sue being a visible presence in our community empowers those in need. Sue puts it this way, "Being an open and out, being visible, empowers those who may not be out to seek assistance from me in the church. Even those who are not part of the church come to me because they feel safe." Now allow me to highlight Sue's most recent job title, parent, or Mima as they call her. A family emergency called Sue to action as the safety and well-being of her two young granddaughters were at risk. Debbie Miller, longtime Canton UCC member, remembers Pastor Sue. Pastor Sue dropped everything and went after those girls. "I remember it was hard. They were so young and all they had were the few things that were packed up with them." During my interviews, nearly every person commented on the gratitude they had for how Pastor Sue had stepped up and taken on this role. Pastor Sue became a parent overnight whilst continuing to lead a congregation. Nearly 5 years later, she continues to provide a loving and safe home for her granddaughters of color, Keziah and Annette, and empowers them to be strong and proud young girls. Finally, if I may speak personally, Pastor Sue, you have directly empowered me, my family, and most importantly, my daughter. You have softened the heart of this hardened skeptic. When my husband went on the journey to find a church that would not only accept our family, but also support, affirm, and love it, I frankly thought it did not exist in this community. I have found you a faith leader I can truly trust, but more importantly, have found a whole new extended family. When learning you had received this award, you said you were honored and humbled. I too am honored and humbled to be even a small part of the good you do in this world. With that, please allow me to introduce the recipient of the 2021 YWCA Women in Achievement Empowerment Award, Reverend Sue Harrington.
Pastor Sue.
Thank you, Brooke. Thank you, Angela, for your very kind words and the work that you've done to do that. I'd like to thank the YWCA Board of Directors and Mr. John Cousins for nominating me for this award. I'd also like to thank the members and the friends of First Congregational United Church of Christ and the supporting people of Canton. Without your support, this recognition would not be possible. I am extremely honored to receive such an important recognition as the Empowerment Award. This recognition is an affirmation that I made the right choice some 8 years ago. Here's why. As Angela has said, 9 years ago, I was called as the pastor of First Congregational United Church of Christ in Canton. And again, as she said, I am the first openly gay pastor to serve this church. There was a lot of excitement and enthusiasm for what this meant, not only for our church, but for the community of Canton. Unfortunately, it didn't take long before opposition to my presence in Canton became known. A few months after beginning my call, I received an anonymous letter stating that I should basically leave, get out of town. The letter stated that Canton was a small family town and people like me were not welcome. Then came a second anonymous letter, basically saying the same thing. These letters didn't concern me too much as someone who has lived a lot under the skies of unappreciative of who I was. It just meant my presence and my work in this community was needed. However, I did become concerned and upset when I realized that I was being stalked. I was being watched. After the anonymous letters, I began to notice a car sitting across the street from the church's parking lot. And that same car was there when I arrived to work most days. And it was there when I went out for lunch sometimes. Now, it wasn't unusual for cars to park in what was then the Sedgwick Funeral Home parking lot. What was unusual was that the car was not parked in a parking spot. The older gentleman driving the car would park his car facing the church's parking lot and building entrance. After a few months of being watched for what seemed like on a weekly basis, I decided I would no longer tolerate the uncomfortable environment this stalker created for me and my wife at the time. So one morning I pulled into church to start my day, as I did almost every day of the week. And there again across the alley was this older man in his car staring at me. And so this time, instead of ignoring him and going into the church like I've been doing for months, I decided to sit in my car and stare at him. And after a couple of minutes, he started his car and drove away. And so I started my car and followed him. And I wrote down his license plate number. Fortunate for me, I was meeting with a few clergy friends later in the day. When I told them that I had taken down my stalker's license plate number, my friend, now retired, Reverend Maureen Stein, requested the number and said, "I'll take care of it." And she did. The stalking stopped. So why do I tell you this story? For most of my life, I've had to live in the closet regarding my sexuality. For the 14 years I was in the Army, I lived hiding who I truly was. Unlike the policies now, I was not allowed to serve openly in the military. In order to be successful, to be accepted, to be given a chance, I had to hide my truest self. So 8 years ago, after receiving the "you're not welcome here" letters and being stalked, I had a choice to make. I could either shrink back in fear or be brave and live openly and honestly and be my authentic self. For LGBTQ plus people, to live truly as one's authentic self, to embrace one's true essence. That is often the most courageous thing we do in our lives. And for many of us, it is a conscious choice we make every day. Receiving the Empowerment Award affirms that I made the right choice when I dared to live my life open and honestly. In all my life's accomplishments, I've had to separate who I was from who the world wanted me to be. So for that reason alone, this honor, this recognition is the most significant to me. This award, with this award, I know you see me. And more than that, you celebrate who I am. And that is the most powerful, the most empowering thing anyone can do for another person. That is to see them, really see them. Thank you for seeing me. By honoring me, you are empowering so many people to be true to who they really are. And thank you. Thank you. And let me close with this, and I hope it empowers others. In a world where you can be anything, be you, be yourself. The world needs you to be authentic. Thank you. Thank you, YWCA.
Thank you, Pastor Sue. Your words are powerful, and we hope you feel our collective embrace. We do see you, and we love you, and we thank you for your unconditional love of us all. So thank you. Thank you, everyone,
Thank you.
for joining us, and we'll see you again. Thank you.